Hello and welcome to Miniature Adventures. I'm Big Lee and today I want to discuss why you should never paint your last miniature. So once upon a time I used to own a huge lead pile. I mean, boxes and boxes of miniatures were bought and almost immediately put into storage, and they were in every cupboard in the house. And it was becoming a problem for me and for the rest of the family. And you know, I had thousands, possibly tens of thousands of figures lying around, and I know I'm not alone, or wasn't alone in that. Many of you out there probably have had piles like that before, or maybe still do. And my miniatures were in different scales for dozens of different games, you know, and I did eventually have a conscious clear out, but lockdown has now reduced my pile of shame to dangerously low levels. Now, I'm not alone in this apparent mania. Shiny Itis is a well recognised phenomenon in our hobby. Surely it must have made it into medical journals somewhere, because we all know it exists. You know, however, a few years ago I did make a very conscious decision to drastically reduce my lead mounting. I mean, it really had got out of proportion, and I was being bogged down by having too much stuff to do and not enough time. I could never have painted it all. And so I used different routes for the disposal of this massive pile. I set aside some to give to my kids. They were young at the time when I did this, so that they could do some painting, and I'd spend some fun doing painting sessions with them, with models I didn't worry too much about, because I either had duplicates of or just old models that I was never going to get around to painting. Some I gave away to friends. You know, I've got quite a wide circle of role players and war gamers, all who paint, so I managed to dispose of some to friends, and some I sold. You know, the traditional route, I guess, for many of us, putting it on eBay, and I managed to sell quite a bit of stuff, just, you know, bulk stuff, and I took a load of stuff to bring and buys at shows and things like that. You know, box after box left the house, and I got my pile down to a very manageable level. In fact, my purge was so successful that, you know, my lead mounting eventually became a lead heel, and eventually got it down as far as being a lead bump, or at least by comparison to how I used to be. Now, I mentioned this in previous videos. The plan all along was that I would only buy stuff I was definitely going to paint, and I know we all con ourselves and we end up buying stuff, and you know, and it still happens to me, but I'm trying to be very disciplined about my purchases. So I will buy stuff that I'm currently interested in and I'm going to make an effort to get painted. And you know, sometimes I'll buy too much of something, sometimes other projects come up, but it's actually quite common now that I will indeed buy and paint the stuff that I've just bought. And it's worked really well for me for probably a decade now. I managed to keep my lead pile into a respectable level, a level that isn't going to burden my family if I croaked tomorrow. You know, they ain't going to spend a year trying to dispose of all of this metal that is unpainted metal in my room. And of course, the internet has made it so much easier not only to dispose of stuff that I don't want, but also to buy new stuff when I need it. And then, of course, the pandemic came along, and the internet became even more important. You know, gamers up and down the country found that they had more time and were painting more. And anecdotal evidence and various articles and forum posts that I've read suggest that, you know, industries in our hobby sector have done reasonably well during lockdown, because all of this extra time that we've been ploughing back that time into our hobbies and getting lots painted. But of course, there were also shows were cancelled, obviously, during that whole period as well. So we had one of our major routes for topping up our lead pile, going to shows, came to an end. And yes, they've resumed now. But in my humble opinion, COVID has created an unseen health risk that is never going to make it into the headlines, because it only affects our niche hobby. You know, all gamers should know that you should never paint your last miniature. So why is it that you should never paint your last miniature? Simple. People with stuff to do live longer. It's as simple as that. It reasons for me that if you run out of minis, it's bad for your health. In medical terms, I'm going to give it a new name. If it isn't in a medical journal now, I'm giving it a name. I'm going to call it lead deficiency anemia, or LDA. My current low lead levels require some drastic action. Buying more miniatures is clearly required, on purely medical grounds, if nothing else. So over the next few months, there are several shows in the southeast that I definitely intend on visiting. I can't wait to get back into that circuit. I know some shows have already resumed, some that I couldn't get to for various reasons, but definitely, there's 3 or 4 shows coming up towards the end of the year, starting in October, down here in the southeast, that me and some of the rejects are definitely going to try and be visiting, and I'm going to have a significant shopping list, I'm sure I will. There's always things that I like to see in person with the Mark 1 eyeball before I buy, and I fully expect to have that ooh shiny moment where you find something that you never knew you needed and you've got to have it. And I'm looking forward to that because I haven't had that experience for such a long time now, and many people will be in the same boat as me. After 18 months away from trade shows, I definitely need the retail therapy. The internet's been brilliant, and I'm a big advocate of using that to keep companies going during lockdown and to support them, but I really want to see products face to face with my own eyeballs, pick them up and hold them and have a look at them before I buy. I want to enjoy that experience again. So I have a plan for avoiding lead deficiency anemia in the future, that will mean that if anything goes wrong and we have more lockdowns in future, I will never have a repeat of this dangerous health issue. So my solution, I'm going to keep 1 miniature aside as life insurance. It's the wargamer's equivalent of scratching your name on a bullet so you own the one with your name on it. If I never paint that mini, I'll always have something to keep me going. You can never paint that last miniature. Very dangerous. So when I start re-attending shows in a few weeks' time and I come home with my arms trembling and full of all the metal that I've just bought, I can justifiably tell my wife that I did it for the good of my health. Now, I know from talking to many of you before, both on forums and various other sites and in the comments sections here and on my blog, that I'm unusual in that I have got a fairly small lead mounting. Many of you out there have got a large lead mounting, but I'd like to know what you think. What do you think about this idea that painting your last miniature could be a very dangerous thing indeed? As always, I'd love to hear from you, so please leave some comments below or over on my blog, Big Lee's Miniature Adventures. And of course, if you enjoyed today's video, please like, subscribe and share. So until next week, stay safe, get in as many games as you can, don't paint that last miniature and keep rolling high.